High above the city streets, a mission is about to begin. A voice cuts through the air, suggesting they review the details one more time. From their vantage point, an operative confirms the identity of their quarry, Iori Shu. The team's objective is clear: capture the target alive and transport him to a waiting van. Down below, the target, Iori Shu, walks on, seemingly unaware. He reflects internally that this isn't the first time he's been hunted by people like this, all because of the power he was given. The operatives know his value. The boy is worth $1 billion. The team discusses their approach. One questions if such heavy firepower is necessary for a single kid, but another operative explains the client was vague on details, though rumors about the target are significant. A third, observing through a scope, notes he just looks like a normal junior high student. Their leader cuts the chatter short, tapping his subordinate on the shoulder and giving the order to begin. The command is acknowledged as the lone figure of Iori Shu continues down the street, a target walking into a well-laid trap. From a rooftop, the leader confirms the intel. The target is alone and completely exposed. He relays the plan to neutralize and capture Iori using non-lethal rounds or a stun gun, stating that he and another operative, Gabriel, will take the lead. In what seems like an instant, the plan is a success. Iori Shu lies bound in the back of the van. The mission, it appears, is complete, but the events unfold differently. The leader, Gabriel, smirks with confidence, knowing his support team is in position should the target resist. Cocking his weapon, he leaps from the building, calling down to the boy not to take it personally. His descent is met with an impossible sight. The solid ground beneath Iori ripples like water. Gabriel's body slams into the pavement with a sickening crunch, his confident expression replaced by one of pure shock. From a nearby roof, his teammate Vigo can only stare in horror, demanding to know what just happened. Before he can process it, Vigo finds himself sinking as the rooftop beneath him turns to a dark, viscous mire. Panic sets in. Elsewhere, the blonde operative, Garrett, desperately calls for Miller on the comms, having heard nothing from Vigo or Gabriel. Their cameras are down. He shouts that this is their last chance. He stared in utter disbelief. His teammate, Miller, was completely encased in a shimmering, crystalline substance, frozen mid-motion. The shot gave way to pure terror. He turned and fled, the realization hitting him that the high pay for this job was a warning. This wasn't a simple kidnapping. It had devolved into a complete horror show. His only instinct was to escape, to put as much distance as possible between himself and the boy. But his escape was cut short. A shadow fell over him, and he froze, his eyes wide with the horror of what stood directly behind him. A final, agonized scream echoed through the narrow alley. Moments later, the alley was quiet. Iori Shu answered his ringing phone. A girl's voice, identified on the screen as Kana, asked if he was finished with his shopping. He calmly replied that he was just finished, sitting amidst the still forms of the 4 mercenaries who had attacked him. On the other end of the line, Kana clutched her head as a sizzling sound emanated from her hand. She reminded him that it was his turn for chores and urged him to hurry, though she acknowledged that she knew he would. After the call, a translucent interface materialized before him, displaying his status as a level 110 human. He reviewed his attributes and skills, which included freezing magic and illusion interference magic. He muttered to himself, noting he'd taken more damage than expected due to his low stamina. He still had MP left, but creating illusions would have been more efficient. He wished for a recovery skill and resolved to be more careful with his limitations from now on. His reflection was cut short by a new message on his phone. It was from Kana, warning him that if he wasn't home in 5 minutes, he would be stuck with chores again the next day. The ultimatum caught him slightly off guard. He reflects that this has become his new, everyday life. Realizing he's lost track of time again, he decides he'd better hurry home. His thoughts drift to the day he acquired his game-like status and skills. A mysterious woman's voice echoes in his mind, stating that the old Iori Shu was left behind, and these new abilities shaped his new, everyday existence. He remembers that it was about a year ago that he obtained these new skills. Before that, he was just Iori Shu, a nobody, living an ordinary life. Arriving at his front door, he is met by his younger sister. She chides him, telling him they'll be late and that he should be used to their new place by now. He quietly agrees, saying he's coming. With a simple okay, he follows her as they head out towards their school. The scene shifts to a bustling classroom. Students chatter amongst themselves about recent streams and poor report cards. One of the boys turns and calls out a greeting. The greeting is for Iori, who has just sat down at his desk. A couple of classmates wish him a good morning, and he returns the sentiment with a quiet mumble. The classroom is a little more energetic than usual, as today is the last day before summer break. As he looks at his phone, other students begin to whisper. They comment on a new transfer student, noting how blunt he is and the strange timing of his arrival. Iori overhears them, thinking to himself that once summer break starts, he'll at least be free from these awkward situations. He hopes the day will end normally, but his thought is cut short by a sudden, agonized cry. The transfer student collapses from his desk, falling hard onto the classroom floor. Chaos erupts. Iori stares in shock, wondering what is happening as his own body begins to feel strange. Around him, students scream and fall, overcome by an unseen force. A glowing, intricate magic circle materializes on the floor, its power radiating through the room, cast by the smiling, mysterious woman from his memories. He looked up from the classroom floor, his senses reeling, to see the image of the mysterious woman projected onto the blackboard inside a glowing magical seal. She offered congratulations, announcing that all 25 of them had been chosen as heroes destined to save the world. The declaration left him utterly bewildered. The woman introduced herself as Ashera, their guide to this other world, apologizing for the rough treatment. As his classmates murmured in confusion, wondering if it was a prank, he struggled to grasp if any of this was real. Ashera explained that the dizziness they felt was a side effect of having statuses and abilities granted to them, which they could check later. She then held up a seating plan for the class. Ashera declared that all 25 people listed on it, with no exceptions, would be transported. She cheerfully instructed them to overcome the unknown threats and monsters that awaited them, to become heroes and save this new world. As his classmates began to vanish one by one in flashes of light, a chilling realization struck him. He recognized the seating chart she held. It was the one from before he had transferred to this school. His mind raced with the implications. There were 26 people in this class, including himself. His name wasn't on that list. The summoning spell, he understood with dawning horror, did not recognize his existence. Panic set in. He knew he had to get out immediately, but another student was already at the door, pulling frantically at the handle. The boy screamed that it wouldn't open, that he just wanted to go home. He stood frozen as the last of his classmates vanished, the summoning circle on the screen glowing ominously. He was alone, trapped, his mind struggling to comprehend how this could be happening. From outside the school, a powerful blast of energy erupted from the classroom, shattering the windows in a blinding flash. The aftermath left the room in ruins. Smoke filled the air, desks and chairs were overturned and scattered. There was no sign of anyone. Sometime later, Iori Shu lay in a hospital bed, his eyes closed. An elderly woman with glasses sat beside him, watching over him with a concerned expression. He awakens with a start, his eyes slowly focusing on the sterile white ceiling. A doctor stands over him, asking if he feels any dizziness or nausea. Iori Shu reports that he feels fine, and the doctor, relieved, informs him that he will be kept for observation for a few days just to be safe. As the doctor and a nurse turn to leave, a strange thought crosses his mind. Hospitals in another world look just like the ones back home. Still disoriented, he calls out to the doctor, asking where exactly they are. The doctor's words confirm his location. He is in the largest hospital in the area where he lives. Reassuringly, the doctor adds that his family has already been informed and they are on their way. He lets out a faint, nervous laugh. The sheer normalcy of the situation feels unreal, prompting him to wonder if the entire incident with a woman named Ashera was nothing more than a dream. Shaking off the thought, he calls out to the doctor again, who is speaking with the old woman from before. He asks for an explanation of how he ended up in the hospital in the first place. The doctor turns back, holding a paper bag. He admits he wasn't planning on giving it to Iori until he was discharged, but since he wants to know, he hands it over with a warning. Prepare yourself before you look. He takes the bag, his hands unsteady as he begins to open it. The doctor adds one final instruction. Do not try to access any information other than the news. Inside, he finds his phone. A breaking news notification is on the screen. He taps it, and a headline fills his vision. Middle school explosion. 25 students feared missing. The article details that there is only one survivor, a male student found unconscious. His disbelief mounts as he scrolls through the comments. The news hits him with the force of a physical blow. It all really happened. The Another World transfer, he was the only survivor. His mind races, trying to understand why, until he spots a seating plan. He wasn't on it. He was a transfer student. He desperately tries to recall anything else Ashera said. A memory of Ashira's voice cuts through his panic. She had been explaining the side effects to the class. The headaches and dizziness they all felt, she had said, were the result of having skills and statuses granted to them. He sat in his hospital bed, a bandage on his cheek, contemplating his situation. Since he wasn't transferred to the other world, he reasoned that he surely wasn't given any of the special abilities his classmates received. Yet, the mysterious woman's words echoed in his mind. You can check by saying status. A sliver of doubt crept in. Just in case, he decided to try. He quietly uttered the command, status. Instantly, a shimmering, ornate window materialized in the air before him. His eyes widened in disbelief. It was a status screen displaying his name, Iori Shu, and his designation as a level 1 human. His stats were listed plainly: Strength 5, Dexterity 3, Intelligence 5, and Agility 3. The screen confirmed his worst fears and greatest surprise. After failing to transfer to another world, the powers had been granted to him anyway. His normal existence was shattered, and he was left to wonder if these new abilities would bring despair and destruction, or something else entirely. Outside a hospital, a media frenzy erupts. Reporters, their cameras flashing, press against the police line, demanding answers. They shout questions about the sole survivor of the middle school bombing incident, questioning why only one person survived and accusing the police of hiding something. The officers hold firm, ordering the crowd to step back. The journalists refuse to yield, insisting they need the truth and questioning why they are being prevented from seeing the survivor if there is nothing to conceal. Unseen by the clamoring press, a man in a suit walks calmly down the hospital corridor. Inside a quiet room, Iori Shu lies in a hospital bed with a bandage on his cheek. He hears a soft knock on the door and, turning his head, gives permission for the visitor to come in as the door slides open. The door flies open and his younger sister rushes toward him, crying out for her big brother. She throws her arms around him in a tight embrace, sobbing with relief that he is safe. As she clings to him, their father, Gabriel, stands beside the bed. He asks Iori how he is feeling and if his body is all right. Iori looks up and reassures him, explaining that the doctor said there's nothing wrong. Gabriel looks down, a quiet expression of relief washing over his face. Sometime later, Gabriel stands outside, looking up at the sky. He observes to himself that, just as he expected, something outrageous has occurred. Above the city, a massive, intricate sigil glows faintly among the clouds. Back in his room, Iori sits up in bed, waving goodbye as his family departs. His attention is then captured by a translucent screen floating before him, resembling something from a video game. It lists his newly acquired skills, appraisal and universal translation. He recognizes this as the ability given to him by the woman named Ashera. Glancing out the window at the people below, he figures he has plenty of time, since he won't be going out anytime soon, and wonders if he can use this skill as well. He picks up a paper cup from his bedside table. Taking a deep breath, he decides to put his new power to the test. Focusing his intent, he speaks the activation word, appraisal. Instantly, a glowing panel of text materializes before him, identifying the target as a paper cup in good condition containing residual drinking water. His eyes widen in shock and amazement. He stared in disbelief, a bead of sweat tracing its way down his temple. He had done it. This was the result of his appraisal skill. His mind raced, wondering what other abilities he might possess. His gaze shifted to the clock on the far wall, attempting to use the skill again. An error message materialized before him, informing him that appraising targets more than 2 meters away was impossible below level 2. The new question was immediate. How could he raise the skills level? He briefly pictured himself in a fantasy world, clad in armor and fighting monsters to gain experience. But the thought was fleeting. This wasn't some other world, and monsters didn't exist here. Unsure of how to proceed, he decided to set that puzzle aside for later and picked up his phone. With the phone in hand, he decided to test his other new skill. He opened a foreign video, and a woman on screen began to speak. As he mentally activated universal translation, her words suddenly became clear, perfectly understood in Japanese. Astonished by the result, he immediately decided to test it again, this time with German. Before he could, a wave of dizziness washed over him. His body went limp, and he slumped forward in the bed. A strange display flickered into his vision, revealing his status. While his health was full, his magic points were completely drained. A notification sounded. The system confirmed his use of skills under extreme conditions. Based on the successful acquisition of 2 languages and the appraisal of 1 item, it announced that experience points would now be allocated. In a quiet room, sunlight streams through a window as birds chirp outside. A young man, Iori Shu, lies in a hospital bed, his eyes fluttering open as he begins to stir. He sits up, a hand to his head, trying to clear the fog. He remembers testing a skill, then a sudden wave of drowsiness and exhaustion washed over him. He wonders if he simply fell asleep right there. His eyes widen in disbelief as a translucent screen materializes before him. He stares at the text, confused. His level has gone up. He begins to piece it together. His level increased by 2. It seems that successfully activating a skill's range provides an experience point bonus. In the process, he acquired the appraisal skill, and his universal translation skill also leveled up. He deduces further that activating skills requires MP, or magic power. While his MP recovers after a night's sleep, overusing it leads to drowsiness and fatigue. He wobbles slightly, feeling the lingering effects. Curious, he decides to test what happens when he forces a skill with low MP. He attempts to use appraisal again, but only manages a pained grunt as exhaustion hits him. At that moment, the door to his room slides open and his younger sister peeks in, asking her big brother how he is feeling. She reminds him that he must be careful with his MP consumption. 2 weeks have passed since the accident, and he is finally back home. The incident was officially classified as an unfortunate explosion, and though some media outlets pursued conspiracy theories, they never found his location. He has been unable to find any information about the woman, Ashera, since that day. He reflects on the trouble he caused his father and Kana, relieved that their names were kept out of the news. He vows to repay this debt soon. During his hospital stay, he continued to level up without fail. Summoning his status, he sees he is now Iori Shu, a level 11 human, with his stats significantly increased. His control has improved. By the 5th day, he could sense his remaining MP instinctively. The nausea and drowsiness from overuse are now rare. He checks his current MP, noting a small expenditure has brought it down to 50 out of 100. He reviews his skills. Having maxed out both appraisal and universal translation, he can no longer gain EXP bonuses from them. A new list of available skills appears: fire, ice, wind, and earth magic. He realizes he can acquire them with something called SP, but a new concern arises. The required MP for these powerful new skills isn't listed, and he worries he might not have enough to use them. He flinched as his phone pinged with a notification from a mobile game, an event starting today. It occurred to him that he hadn't logged in at all recently. He sat on his bed, contemplating what he should do next. He questioned why he was even engaging with this system now that he was back home. The thought process was clear. If he didn't select skills he could successfully activate, he would be stuck, unable to level up any further. He tried to convince himself that he had already benefited enough from the skills he possessed. There was no real need to level up any more than this. After all, for someone who hadn't been transported to another world, these powers seemed entirely unnecessary. With his mind seemingly made up, he resolved to put it all behind him. Now that the tedious hospital stay was over, he decided he should just quit this kind of thing and return to his ordinary, everyday life. But in that very moment, a brilliant flash of light erupted before him. A notification appeared, confirming the acquisition of 3 new skills: water magic, wind magic, and spatial teleportation magic. A conflicting thought surfaced, a desire to level up and become stronger. He wondered if that was truly all there was to his motivation. He stared at his hand, a bead of sweat tracing its way down his temple. He had acquired them. Despite his earlier resolve, he couldn't deny the excitement welling up inside him. He questioned why he felt this way, wondering if there was some special reason for this unexpected thrill after all. A new power manifests, spatial teleportation. Staring at his own hand, Iori Shu wonders if this means he can teleport himself as well. He confirms he has enough MP and considers how useful it would be to teleport to any imagined location. He puts the theory to the test. Focusing his will, a vortex of energy erupts around him as he attempts the spell. In his room, his heart pounds with exertion. The incredible realization that he can do it fills him with exhilaration, but the feeling is instantly replaced by a violent shudder that courses through his entire body. He coughs, clutching his chest as the spell's activation ceases. A status screen materializes, showing his MP has been completely depleted. He realizes he must have used it all teleporting the water bottle earlier, concluding that this is not a power he can use casually. Despite the drain, a sharp, determined grin spreads across his face. With this, he thinks he can level up again. His resolve is cut short as his strength gives out and consciousness fades. Sometime later, the sound of birds chirping fills the air as his father, Gabriel, stands over him, calling his name. The voice pulls him back, and his eyes snap open in bed, startled and sweating. He sits up as his father expresses relief. Gabriel explains that Shu has been asleep since yesterday and asks if he's all right, mentioning he was surprised to find him on the floor. Shu apologizes, assuring his father he's fine now and thanking him for carrying him to bed. With a warning not to overdo it, Gabriel leaves for work. Alone again, Shu sighs, resolving to do better next time. A status screen appears, and he's shocked to see his level has jumped straight to 3. He decides to focus on the level up process and notices a new skill, status concealment. Intrigued, he gets up to try in the bathroom. He runs into a girl with long, light hair, the sudden encounter startling them both. Her expression immediately sours, and a wave of dread washes over him. He realizes he must have caused her a great deal of trouble while he was hospitalized, concluding that she must now hate him. Without another word, he turns and quickly walks away, shutting a door behind him. He retreats into the bathroom, sitting on a small stool by the tub. He resolves to be careful, needing to ensure that the kid doesn't notice whatever he is about to do. Focusing his intent, he holds out his hand. A small, shimmering sphere of liquid materializes above his palm. He recognizes it instantly, water magic. He imagines the power scaling up, picturing water bursting forth in a flash flood. The sheer potential of it makes him pause and ponder his next move. Inside the house, a massive, amorphous blob of water rumbles and drips as it hovers in the air before Iori Shu. He sits on the floor, staring up at the impossible creation with wide-eyed confusion. Elsewhere, Hashina sighs in her room, only to be jolted by a sudden, loud pop. Startled, she wonders what the noise was and rushes out, clattering down the stairs with an annoyed expression. She finds him sitting in a large puddle, completely drenched. The water ball has burst. He looks up at her sheepishly, offering a repeated apology and asking if he scared her. He quickly reassures her that he's fine and that there's nothing wrong with his body. Seeing him unharmed, Hashina stands in the doorway and concedes that if that's the case, then everything is fine before turning away. Watching her leave, Iori reflects on the surprising turn of events. He hadn't expected such a huge mass of water to appear just from imagining a flash flood. He also realizes that Hashina, who had been sulking just moments before, must have been worried about him. He checks his status and notes that his MP has dropped significantly, now at 55 out of 120. The sudden wave of fatigue and exhaustion confirms his suspicion. Realizing the danger of such experimentation, he decides to stop for now and get some breakfast, vowing to be more careful when using his skills. His thoughts drift to what he's learned. He discovered that skills labeled as magic vary significantly in scale, depending on the caster's imagination. A small imagined flame costs very little MP, while a large, roaring inferno consumes a great deal more. He recalls his training method, activating water magic, then canceling it, then activating it again. This process led him to understand that a perfect adjustment means successfully activating a skill with the absolute minimum MP consumption. His status confirms his identity as Iori Shu, a level 13 human, with skills in water, wind, and space magic. While stretching, he reflects that this was the method he devised to steadily gain experience points. It was a struggle, as improper magic control could lead to the skill failing to activate or Even worse, consuming too much MP. He resolves to continue this daily routine of minimally activating his skills to earn experience. Just as he solidifies this thought, a notification appears. Required experience points reached. A brilliant light erupts around him, and he begins to float as the level-up process commences. He stares in awe at the glowing interface before him, realizing this is what it looks like to level up. It's the first time he's ever witnessed it firsthand. His gaze shifts to the details on the screen. His status now reads, Iori Shu, LV-14 human, and he notes that his physical abilities have also increased quite a bit. He recalls the physical measurements he took right after transferring to school, which were at the national average, and wonders how much his abilities have improved since then. Just as he contemplates finding a way to test his new strength, a knock at his door interrupts his thoughts. His sister's voice calls out, asking if he's free. From the other side of the door, his sister waits. He answers casually, asking what she needs. The door handle turns, and the door creaks open just enough for her to peek inside. Her expression is somber as she begins to speak, mentioning the events of that morning. She hesitates, her eyes filled with worry, before quickly dismissing the thought. Forget it, she murmurs, deciding against whatever she was about to say. With a soft thud, the door closes, leaving him alone and puzzled. Shaking off the strange interaction, he calls out to her, announcing that he's going to buy ingredients for their meals and that she should join him. He resolves to get ready right away. As he prepares, he reflects on his sister's behavior, concluding that she must be angry with him for all the trouble he's caused. His thoughts drift to Kana, who had to take a break from her lessons to avoid public scrutiny after her hospitalization. Leaning against her own door, his sister remains silent and troubled. He decides to put off examining his status in detail for later. For now, his priority is to make amends for the turmoil of the past 2 weeks. Her mind floods with painful memories, her father's worried face explaining that Shu had been sleeping since the previous evening, a doctor in a hospital corridor detailing how he was unconscious and vomiting, a school official delivering the news of an accident at his middle school. The recollections bring back the image of her own tear-streaked face, overwhelmed with fear. The weight of these memories settles upon her. With her hands behind her back, she looks down, a mixture of frustration and deep concern on her face. You're such an idiot, big brother, she thinks to herself. Despite his sister's profound concern, the brother's own curiosity was only growing stronger. On a certain day in July, a mysterious explosion ripped through a middle school, leaving a gaping, ruined hole in the side of the building. The incident's aftermath was grim. News reports confirmed that while one male student was fortunately found and had been recovering, 25 other students remained missing. In another place entirely, a woman with elegant, light-colored hair addressed a group, welcoming all 25 of them as brave heroes. With a bright, innocent smile, she introduced herself as Priscilla, the princess of the kingdom. Standing before the assembled students on a glowing magical sigil, she announced that, starting today, they were to dedicate themselves to the subjugation of the Demon King. The students, suddenly thrown into this strange place, found the talk of a Demon King and royal decrees confusing. One remarked that school was boring anyway, while another conceded that having skills and magic did sound interesting. Their idle chatter was cut short by a sharp rebuke. An instructor with a stern expression shouted for them to be quiet, adding that this new situation might surprisingly be better for them. He demanded they focus on their training. The students flinched at his command. One of them muttered that they were only fighting low-level monsters, calling the task easy and boring. Another chimed in, expressing a desire to use magic in a flashy way soon. While his classmates complained, one young man was enveloped in a surge of light. A translucent panel appeared before him, declaring that the required experience points had been gained and a level up would now take place. The others could only stare in astonishment. His peers commented on his rapid advancement. One exclaimed that he had leveled up again, while another noted his own progress was stalled at level 2. They agreed that such incredible progress was to be expected of their class representative, Seiya Amaji. Having reached level 10, he was approached by a female classmate who ran up to him, eagerly asking what new skill he had learned this time. With a confident grin, Seiya held out his hand. A sharp cracking sound echoed as jagged shards of ice materialized from his palm. He announced his new ability, Ice Magic. He, however, remains unimpressed with his own display, as his classmates marvel at his power. With one noting it's only a matter of time before he surpasses them all, Seiya quietly insists that he is still far from proficient. Nearby, the instructor uses the moment to deliver a stern lesson to the dark-haired female student. He warns her of the fatal consequences of depleting her magic power, explaining that running out of MP in front of a monster leads to collapse and certain death. The student affirms that she understands the theory perfectly. Meanwhile, back in the original world, the sole survivor of the explosion crouches by the side of a busy road. Sweat drips from his face as he trembles, muttering in distress while traffic rushes past. Under a bridge, Iori Shu sits amidst jagged shards of ice that crackle in the oppressive heat. He realizes he miscalculated. It's far too hot. A chime sounds as a notification appears before him. He has achieved the required experience points, and a level up will now commence. A status screen materializes, displaying his new status. Iori Shu, level 35 human. A pleasant feeling washes over him. He reflects that it has been 3 months since the explosion at his school, and his progress has been smooth. He can't help but wonder if it's truly all right to continue this way. Following that mysterious explosion, the school building was deemed too dangerous for use. Consequently, all students were required to attend classes online. Back in his room, Iori considers this a silver lining. Without the scrutiny of his classmates, he's been able to focus on leveling up. Though he acknowledges the struggle it has been to reach this point, he decides it's time to acquire a new skill. The thought brings back memories of past failures, an attempt to test healing magic that caused his sister to scream in misunderstanding, and a teleportation attempt that ended with him running out of magic power mid-transit. Looking back, he can now see the humor in it. His reminiscence is cut short by a message on his phone from Kana. She reminds him that it's his turn for household chores and that they need rice. In their household, where their father works late, he and his sister alternate the daily tasks of cooking and cleaning. Thinking about the shopping trip, he wonders if a skill could make the chore easier. Teleporting to the supermarket would completely drain his magic. As he scans the list of available skills, his eyes fix on one in particular, item box. He makes his choice. A notification confirms the acquisition of the item box skill. He immediately compares it to the storage systems common in video games. Eager to test it, he first consults the skill's appraisal information. It uses MP, has a skill level, and a current storage limit of a single item. He activates item box, and a translucent cube materializes before him. He then picks up a shopping bag, attempting to place it inside the strange container. He begins experimenting with his new ability. A piece of paper vanishes with a soft pop into a shimmering, translucent cube. He considers the skill's potential, thinking it's good, but would be more convenient if the storage limit were higher. A thought then strikes him. What about the receipt he left inside the eco bag? Could that be stored as well? Taking his experiment outside, he stands beneath a tree and summons the item box once more. The glowing cube materializes before him, and he reaches out to interact with it. He places his bag of groceries into the ethereal container. A list materializes, confirming the contents. The eco bag itself, along with rice, meat, cabbage, and onions. As the weight vanishes from his shoulder, he feels remarkably light and confirms to himself that this is working well. His tests continue, revealing the skill's specific rules. He discovers that a trash bag containing disposable chopsticks and a pencil case holding a mechanical pencil and an eraser are each treated as a single item. This confirms a crucial detail. Items stored inside a container are all counted as one. He confirms his findings. At its current level 1, the item box has only a single storage slot. Reviewing the skill's details, he sees the MP cost is a manageable 40 points. He is pleased, concluding that it turned out to be a very useful skill indeed. His experiments concluded, he turns to leave, wondering if he should head back. Just then, a familiar voice calls his name. He stops, turning in surprise to see Kana standing nearby. On a paved walkway, Iori Shu is stopped by a female classmate. She looks at him intently, asking who he is. He realizes that despite being in the same class, this is the first time they have ever met face-to-face. She introduces herself as Haruna Fujisawa, asking if the name sounds familiar. The name sparks a flicker of recognition in Iori. He remembers her from their online classes. She is the class representative. Fujisawa seems pleased that he recalls her, noting that he only recently transferred into their class. As they walk, he wonders why she would call out to him, since they've never spoken. His thoughts are shadowed by a newspaper headline about an accident and 25 students who are still missing, making him suspect she wants to ask about that incident. He asks her directly if she needs something from him. Fujisawa explains that since their classes moved online, she hasn't had a chance to speak with classmates and simply wanted to say hello. Iori remains silent, his expression guarded. She apologizes, sensing the timing might be bad. Iori quickly dismisses her concern, admitting to himself that he was being overly suspicious, having only seen her as a serious honor student during class. He then apologizes in turn, explaining that he was bracing himself for questions about the accident. Her expression softens with understanding. She remarks that it must have been tough and that everyone has things they'd rather not discuss, assuring him she won't pry. With that, she says she has to go and apologizes for stopping him, turning to leave. As she walks away, she glances back over her shoulder with a bright smile and a wave, cheerfully telling him she'll see him in class tomorrow. Iori watches her go, a look of confusion on his face. He remains still, processing the brief, strange encounter. A sense of unease settles over him as he wonders what that was all about. His suspicion overriding his uncertainty, he decides to take a quick look. As Fujisawa continues to walk away, Iori raises his hand toward her and quietly invokes a skill, appraisal. He watched her walk away, his appraisal skill activating. The results materialized in his mind. Haruna Fujisawa, a 14-year-old human. But her status was alarming. Malnutrition, internal bleeding, and a mood disorder. The revelation struck him with force. His eyes widened in disbelief as a single thought echoed in his mind. What? Sometime later, back at his apartment, the groceries landed on the counter with a heavy thud. His sister watched him from across the room, a silent concern on her face as he stared blankly at his computer screen. She finally broke the silence, asking if he had carried all those groceries by himself. He confirmed it was no trouble, thanks to his training. But his mind was elsewhere, replaying the information from his skill. The appraisal result from earlier, it couldn't have been a mistake. His thoughts drifted back to their encounter. He recalled her tired expression and the heavy clothing, so out of place on a summer day. He remembered the way she left, almost as if she were afraid of something. And then, another detail surfaced. For a brief moment as she departed, he had seen a bruise on her wrist. All the pieces clicked into place, forming a disturbing picture. A bad feeling began to settle deep within him. Iori Shu stands in a doorway, his back to the room. He lets out a sigh, telling the person inside to just forget it. He knows that without solid evidence, there is nothing he, as a mere classmate, can do. He turns back to face Kana, who is sitting on the couch, and asks what's wrong and why she sighed. She explains that she heard a senior she was close with has quit the dojo. The news gives him pause. He understands that Kana had been expecting this for months, but it still affects her. He realizes this senior must have been someone truly special for Kana to be so attached, and the name sparks a memory in him. He, too, wants to see Fujisawa-senpai again. His unspoken thought is picked up by Kana, who confirms he's thinking of Haruna Fujisawa. She fondly recalls Haruna as a strong, kind, and universally loved senior, who was also the class representative at her older brother's school. The connection startles Iori, who leans in urgently, asking if Kana knows why she stopped coming. Her expression becomes somber as she hesitates. She quietly reveals that she heard Haruna was having a lot of trouble with her family. The information visibly shocks Iori, his face hardening as he processes the news. The truth of the matter was far worse. Haruna Fujisawa had been physically and mentally exhausted, worn down by a torrent of abuse and threats. Back in the present, Iori turns away, his mind racing. He resolves to confirm the situation himself. Changing the subject abruptly, he asks Kana if she has housework duty tomorrow, and she confirms that she does. He then makes a decision, telling her that he will take care of the duties for her tomorrow. His gaze softens slightly as he looks at her, telling her to take it easy. His unexpected kindness leaves her momentarily speechless, her expression a mixture of surprise and confusion as she looks up at him. As her online class concludes, the teacher on screen asks Haruna Fujisawa, the class representative, to give the final command. She formally thanks him, and as she moves to shut down her computer, a notification pings. The alert is a friend request from someone named Shu Iori. His initial message is an apology, asking if she happens to know a girl named Kana Iori. The unexpected request leaves Haruna momentarily stunned. Meanwhile, Iori Shu watches his own screen, relieved to see that Haruna Fujisawa has accepted his request. It confirms his suspicion. A quick glance at her profile reveals a disturbing status, malnutrition, and a note about her physical state. He immediately begins to type, explaining that Kana is his sister and the source of his information. Before he can send his message, another one arrives from her, asking if he plans to visit the supermarket again today. Their conversation accelerates. He confirms his plan to go, and she quickly proposes a meeting time of 5 p.m., promising to answer his questions there. He accepts the arrangement, a sense of relief washing over him as he realizes he has successfully made contact. With the meeting set, he pushes back from his desk and looks out the window. Acknowledging the 5 p.m. deadline, he steels himself, hoping for the best but determined to move quickly. He then speaks a single command into the air, status. In response, a shimmering interface appears before him, displaying a list of his acquired skills. The list is extensive, containing water, wind, and ice magic, as well as more esoteric abilities like spatial teleportation, tracking, and an item box. With a plan in mind, he resolves to practice on his way. Elsewhere, Haruna Fujisawa walks with a heavy expression, her thoughts turning inward. She can't help but wonder if Shu has a secret plan, one that might finally uncover the darkness she carries. Haruna Fujisawa stands alone by a bicycle parking lot, clutching a large folder to her chest. As she waits, Iori Shu approaches, apologizing for calling her out and mentioning he needs to go shopping soon. She assures him it's fine and immediately asks after his sister, Kana. He explains that Kana was quite upset to learn Haruna had quit the kendo club. As she looked up to her, Haruna flinches at the news, looking downcast. She admits she feels bad for Kana, but says it couldn't be helped due to her family's circumstances. Her expression is somber as she quietly confirms that what he said is true. He observes her downtrodden state, recalling that his sister was also worried. A mental assessment reveals the truth. Haruna is suffering from a mood disorder and is exhausted due to abuse and threats, with a home environment rated as nearly the worst imaginable. In response to this grim knowledge, he extends his hand and offers his help, telling her to let him know if she ever has any trouble. She accepts his hand with a squeeze, looking surprised but grateful. After a brief, flustered moment, he says he has to go. They part ways, agreeing to see each other tomorrow as he watches her walk away. Arriving home moments later, Iori is greeted by Kana. He tells her he just met with Haruna, which surprises her. He relays Haruna's regards and, when asked, says she seemed a bit tired but otherwise fine, which seems to satisfy Kana's concern. Later, seated at his desk, he decides to act. He activates a skill he acquired the previous day to investigate Haruna, tracking and detection magic. A holographic interface springs to life before him, displaying a map of the city. The interface details the skill's two primary functions: to track a specified target and to detect the surroundings of either the user or the target. On the map, a clear marker pinpoints the location of Haruna Fujisawa's home. He continued to observe the magical interface, which displayed a schematic of Haruna Fujisawa's home. He noted that while the detection skill didn't reveal the full details of the surroundings, it was a start. He recalled that this tracking and detection ability only worked on things he had touched once. Feeling relieved that he had managed to make contact with her earlier, he then realized that he could gain more information by combining his abilities. Activating his appraisal skill, he focused it on the location. The interface shimmered and updated, revealing not only Haruna's name, but another, Shiro Fujisawa. The appraisal noted Shiro's status as poor and described a living room cluttered with empty alcohol cans. The revelation struck him, his eyes widening in shock as he questioned what could be happening in that house. The disturbing information settled in his mind. Sitting in his room, a look of deep concentration on his face, he contemplated his next move. He knew he couldn't afford to waste any more time. He had to decide what he could do to help Fujisawa-san. Meanwhile, at the Fujisawa residence, a door slid open. A woman with long, light hair and a can in her hand entered the kitchen, her voice dripping with a casual sort of menace. "Oh, there you are," she said, looking towards Haruna, who stood with her back to the entrance, diligently working at the counter. Haruna Fujisawa arrives home, her expression hardening as she finds her mother already drinking. With a hiccup, her mother calls it perfect timing and asks Haruna to go buy more beer. Haruna flatly refuses, stating that she is underage. Her mother scoffs and turns away. As her mother takes another drink, Haruna looks around at the messy, cluttered room. She quietly wonders to herself just when their home ended up in such a state of disarray. Her thoughts drift back in time, recalling that it all began with what seemed like a truly trivial problem between her parents. She remembers how something during that initial argument must have struck a nerve. Soon after, fights between her father and mother became a daily occurrence, until eventually, they stopped speaking to each other altogether. This culminated one day, shortly after she entered middle school, when her father left with his suitcase. Haruna reflects that if her parents had actually cared about their children, things might have turned out better. A memory shows her younger self, her two little brothers, and her mother watching him depart. That day, her father did not come home. He did not return the next day, nor the day after that. The memory shows a young Haruna comforting her two crying younger brothers. A year has passed since her father's disappearance. In that time, her mother lost all interest in them, leaving Haruna with the complete responsibility of all the housework, cooking, and caring for her younger brothers. Returning to the present, her mother perks up and demands that Haruna at least get her some snacks. Haruna quietly agrees, explaining that she also needs to get groceries for dinner and will be back late. As she prepares to leave, Haruna opens the household wallet and notices it's nearly empty. She thinks to herself that while she hates following her mother's orders, she hates dealing with her even more. Turning around, she asks her mother directly if she used the household money. Her mother's response was a flippant, insincere apology. With a dismissive smile, she claimed she couldn't help it, as she was simply short on money. The woman then told Haruna to just handle the situation, somehow, before turning away. Haruna stood in stunned silence, her hand trembling. This money, the living expenses her father left once a month, was the only lifeline for her and her younger brothers. She offered a simple, right, as she continued to walk away. Haruna ground her teeth, forcing herself to calm down. She knew there was no use getting angry with her mother. As she walked away, her mother casually announced that a man named Kajihara was coming over and that Haruna should take care of things. The words struck Haruna with physical force, her eyes widening in shock and revulsion. The weight of it all became too much. Walking alone, she reflected on her desire to never go home again, her inability to burden her friends, and her duty to her younger siblings. A heavy sigh escaped her lips. Her thoughts darkened as she considered the man coming to their house. It wasn't just her mother's actions that were unbearable, but this new development. Lost in her distressing thoughts, she was jolted back to reality by a voice calling her name. It was Iori Shu, looking surprised to see her. He expressed his concern, noting that she looked pale. Haruna quickly tried to compose herself, forcing a laugh and claiming she had just spaced out for a moment before acknowledging him. He then asked if she frequented the supermarket. She affirmed that she did, explaining that she had recently taken over the shopping duties from Kana. He seemed to understand, remarking that Kana must still be feeling down. He then made a request. Kana wanted to talk. So could Haruna please give her a call today? Haruna listened, her expression unreadable. Haruna Fujisawa listens as Iori Shu reassures her. He explains that he and Kana get along well, and he believes Kana genuinely wants to rely on Haruna. He gently advises her that it's okay to accept this reliance without overthinking it, promising he won't force the issue. Haruna looks up at him, his words sinking in. Her mind made up, she resolves to call Kana, contemplating the idea of relying on others. Iori announces he's leaving and says he'll see her tomorrow. As he turns to go, Haruna waves a quiet goodbye. As he walks away, Haruna watches him, murmuring his name. She reflects that, much like Kana, Iori is a kind person, though his stoic expression makes it difficult to know what he's truly thinking. Later that evening, back in the solitude of her room, Haruna takes a deep breath and dials Kana's number. The call is answered almost immediately by an energetic voice asking if it's her senpai. When Haruna confirms, Kana excitedly suggests they have a video call, and Haruna smiles, happy for the chance to talk again. The video call connects, and Kana's cheerful face appears on the screen, congratulating Haruna on mastering a technique and expressing how happy she is for her. Watching her friend, Haruna feels a sense of peace she hasn't known in a long time, thinking to herself that Kana hasn't changed at all. Her friend's expression then shifts to one of concern. Kana tells Haruna that she's heard things are tough at her home and sincerely offers her support, telling her to feel free to rely on her anytime. The sincere offer leaves Haruna momentarily speechless, her eyes wide with surprise. Through the phone, Kana reiterates her desire to be of help. His kindness prompts Haruna to reflect on her silence. For the past year, she hadn't told anyone about her situation at home, afraid of making things worse. But now, she realizes she can't continue like this. She must speak up. Steeling herself, she begins to tell Kana the truth. Before she can finish her sentence, her eyes widen in absolute terror. The legs of a man appear directly behind where she sits. Through the phone, Kana's voice cuts through with an urgent warning. There's a man behind you. Her head whips around, terror contorting her features as she looks up at the imposing figure. Kana's voice asks a chilling question from the phone. Is that your father? A man's voice, slurred and menacing, cuts through the tension. With a hiccup, he addresses the class representative, his lips twisting into a sneer as he observes that her current situation is not good. The man stumbles into view, his face flushed with drink and rage. He is Kajiwara, Haruna's homeroom teacher. Her eyes widen in terror as he snatches the phone from her grasp, roaring about how she dared to ignore him. He glares at the active call, his suspicion piqued as he questions if she is speaking to a boy. He looms over her cowering form, declaring it is time for a lesson for the most despicable scumbag he knows. Haruna's mind races with the horrifying truth. Her mother knows Kajiwara is interested in her, not her mother, yet still allows him into their home. As he grabs her, she sees her two younger brothers watching from a doorway. The sight solidifies her resolve. This is bad. She has to escape, and quickly. In a distressing memory, Haruna Fujisawa lies on the floor, her eyes wide with shock. She wonders how long her home has been this way. Nearby, a very young Iori, Shu cries, clutching his shirt in terror, while one of Haruna's little brothers sobs beside it. As the children weep, their father grabs them, telling them to hurry to their room. Their mother watches from the side, a cold, unsettling smile on her face. The source of their fear becomes clear as Kajiwara-sensei looms over Haruna, yanking her by the hands and demanding she not look away. He tells her he is serious about her future, claiming that staying in a house like this will only drag her down and that true happiness awaits if she becomes his. Tears stream down her face as she grits her teeth, thinking of him as a devilish man, a scumbag who calls himself a teacher. Feeling she can't take it anymore, she silently pleads for someone, anyone, to help her. As she does, a faint magical aura of wind begins to coalesce around her. Suddenly, a powerful blast of wind erupts in the room, throwing Kajiwara-sensei violently backward. He slams against the floor, his face contorted in shock as Haruna looks on, stunned by the impossible event. In the teacher's place now kneels Iori Shu, no longer a small child but a young man. His expression is intense as he yells at her to run. Haruna, still on the ground, looks up at him in utter confusion, whispering his name in disbelief. With a sudden, violent crash, Iori Shu appears in a burst of energy inside Haruna Fujisawa's room, kneeling beside her. The wall behind him is shattered. Startled from her sleep, Haruna can only stare in shock and utter his name, questioning how he could possibly be there. On the floor nearby lies the crumpled form of a man. He rises to his feet as Haruna quickly flees the room. Iori's attention then shifts to the man on the floor, who begins to stir. With a cold expression, Iori demands to know who he is and if he intends to take Haruna away from him. A grim thought crosses his mind as he recognizes the man. The man is Haruna's father, completely drunk and menacing. He gets to his feet, a twisted grin on his face as he brandishes a kitchen knife, his intent to kill radiating from it. Seeing this, Haruna cries out in terror from the doorway, pleading with Iori to run. He ignores her plea, instead raising his hand as magical energy swirls around it. As her father lunges forward, screaming for him to die, Iori prepares to cast wind magic. He easily sidesteps the clumsy, drunken attack. As the man stumbles past, Iori watches him with a steady gaze, acknowledging the fear he feels, but resolving that it would be pathetic to run away now. As Haruna's father turns to attack again, Iori lightly taps the blade of the knife. Enraged, the man bellows at him to stop dodging, screaming that he will kill him. With another touch, the knife dissolves into light and bubbles, vanishing from the man's grasp. He stares at his empty hand, utterly bewildered. Iori calmly identifies the technique he just used, spatial teleportation. The disarmed man furiously demands to know where the weapon went, but Iori feigns ignorance. Internally, he reveals his plan. He is stalling for time. Before teleporting, he had consulted with Kana and had already called the police, a fact confirmed by the active call to emergency services displayed on his phone. A faint, confident smile touches his lips. Hearing the sounds of approach from outside, he knows his plan has succeeded. He turns and walks towards the door, calmly stating that they should be arriving any moment. The door bursts open with a bang, revealing a wild-eyed young man brandishing a metal bat. He calls out for his big bro. Kajiwara-sensei, standing beside Iori Shu, clicks his tongue in annoyance. telling the newcomer he's late. Iori apologizes to Kajiwara, admitting that he let the brat, Yasu, get away and cursing his own uselessness. As the man stands there, Iori's appraisal ability activates. It identifies him as Yasunori Hamada, a 26-year-old human with a drug dependency and a criminal record. Iori realizes this is someone a middle school teacher should never be involved with. He recalls having investigated Kajiwara's social circle and knowing of the man, but he never expected to encounter him here and now. Hamada grins menacingly, declaring his intent to teach the brat a lesson. Iori internally assesses his dire situation. With just over 10% of his MP remaining, he knows that even using spatial teleportation magic on the bat would be futile. He would still be beaten by the two grown men. He's screwed. Hamada's associate eagerly agrees. With a furious roar for Iori to die, Hamada swings the bat with all his might. As the door slams shut behind him, Iori watches the attack approach, grimly accepting that with his current status, it can't be helped. He wonders if this is the end. Kajiwara-sensei watches the scene unfold with a sadistic grin, remarking how good this is. He eagerly encourages Hamada to go ahead and break every last one of Iori's bones. But the expected impact never comes. Instead, a metalkin rolls across the floor with a clang. Iori stands frozen, hand to his mouth in shock. Across from him, Hamada and Kajiwara are equally stunned, their eyes wide with disbelief as Hamada stammers that it can't be. He turns to Kajiwara, bewildered, asking what's going on. A collection of knives and cleavers are now embedded in the wall behind them. As Iori stands alone, he feels as though something lightly brushed against him. He looks down at his hands as a mysterious hand appears, tapping Hamada directly on the forehead. The attacker can only manage a confused huh. With a sudden shove, Yasunori Hamada sends Iori stumbling backward, shocked by the unexpected force. As he regains his balance, Iori has a startling realization. The stat values he's been seeing have been increasing, and they're directly affecting his physical abilities. The scene shifts to Kajiwara-sensei, cowering on the floor. He demands to know what Iori did to his forehead. Looming over him with a menacing expression, Iori holds up two fingers and coldly asks if he should do the same to him. Terrified, Kajiwara begs him to stop, calling him a monster. Following the confrontation, Kajiwara lies weeping on the floor as two police officers enter the room. Outside, the flashing lights of patrol cars signal their arrival, bringing an end to the ordeal. Sometime later, Iori stands alone near a pair of bicycles parked by a wall when a familiar voice calls out his name. He turns to find Haruna Fujisawa approaching, a long black case slung over her shoulder. She greets him with a small smile, remarking that it has been a long time. Iori agrees, acknowledging that a great deal has happened since they last saw each other. In the aftermath of their previous encounter, Kajiwara and his associates were arrested. At the same time, Fujisawa's mother, who was involved with them, was also taken into custody, finally bringing the abuse Haruna had suffered to light. He asks about her younger brothers. She pulls out her phone to show him a picture, explaining they're doing well and living with their paternal grandparents. She adds that her grandparents, who had been worried by the lack of contact, were the first to speak up for her once they learned of her situation. Iori looks at the photo, remarking that they seem like kind people. His expression turns serious as he asks if it was really okay for her to come back alone. She confirms that it was, stating that she has too many memories in their old house and wants to graduate with everyone. She admits that her grandparents were against the idea, but she was persistent and managed to convince them. Iori listens quietly, understanding her reasoning, but still feeling a sense of concern for her. Changing the subject slightly, Haruna mentions something she heard. During their interrogation, the men who were arrested have been saying strange things, claiming they were attacked by a monster. He listened as the details of the interrogation were relayed. Apparently, when Kajiwara-sensei was taken into the interrogation room, his memory of the event returned, and he began shouting frantically that Iori Shu was a monster. However, since there was no evidence linking him to the crime scene, the authorities seemed to have dismissed the teacher's outburst as nothing more than a drunken hallucination. Later, as he stood waiting, a cheerful voice called out to him. It was Kana, who approached with a bright smile and an umbrella in hand, gently chiding him for being late. Haruna Fujisawa greets Kana, expressing her gladness that Kana is doing well. An ecstatic Kana, her pigtails perking up, exclaims how hyped she is for Haruna's return. Nearby, Iori Shu tells his sister to be quiet, but Kana interjects, pointing out that it's been a while for her too, referring to Haruna as Fujisawa-senpai. This is the day Haruna has returned to the dojo after several months away. Kana's happiness is radiant. From off-panel, Iori's sister reminds him to hang up the laundry, to which he gives a dismissive reply. He observes to himself how genuinely happy Kana looks. He decides to head back, watching as Haruna and Kana walk away down the street, deep in conversation. As he turns to leave, Haruna's voice stops him. She calls out his name, Iori-kun. He looks back to see her staring at him intently, prompting him to ask what's wrong. She asks him a simple question, her tone serious. Really? He stares back, his expression unreadable. He confirms that he is just an ordinary middle school boy. In response, she lets out a soft chuckle. She leans in close, whispering into his ear about what happened that day, telling him it is a secret just between them. Iori's eyes widen in shock at her words. Pulling back, she gives him a brilliant, heartfelt smile and thanks him truly. With a final wave, She cheerfully says she will see him next week. Later, under the night sky, a thought surfaces. In this world, real monsters don't exist. There was a belief that such a detestable incident wouldn't happen again anytime soon. But that belief was tied to a specific time. A memory flashes, a woman in shrine maiden attire, surrounded by ethereal flames and grotesque creatures, a paper talisman in her hand. The thought remains unfinished. At that time, I still believed that. Under the vibrant glow of neon signs, pedestrians fill the streets of a bustling city at night. The urban landscape is awash of purple and blue light, with advertisement for watches and karaoke casting long shadows down the alleyways. Suddenly, a dark figure drops from above, landing silently on the pavement before springing back up with inhuman agility. The few passers-by who notice are left staring in confusion as he leaps effortlessly towards the side of the building. He soars through the air, easily grabbing hold of a high ledge. Perched above the street, Iori Shu smiles to himself, realizing his concealment mode is working perfectly, rendering him almost invisible to the people below. From his vantage point, he raises a hand and wills a translucent screen into existence. The glowing interface displays his status. With a light touch, he interacts with the panel, a thoughtful expression on his face as he wonders just how far he should take this. The scene shifts to a derelict school building, its windows shattered and facade crumbling. It has been almost 2 years since the teleportation accident. In another world, one of the students screams at himself to get a hold of his emotions. The 26 boys and girls who received their status from the one they call Ashura were transported to this strange place, where they have been diligently leveling up each day. Their training is now put to the ultimate test. A colossal, lion-like beast, drool dripping from its massive fangs, lets out a deafening roar, confronting the group of young warriors. The sheer presence of the monster sends a wave of fear through the students. One boy, his face pale with terror, questions if they can possibly defeat such a creature, while a young woman tends to a fallen comrade nearby. Cutting through the panic, Seiya Amaji's voice rings out. He roars at his classmates not to be intimidated, commanding them to follow his lead. He immediately begins organizing their defense, shouting that the enemy's attack is coming. He orders all those with defensive skills to move to the front and form a line. He immediately issues a series of commands as the beast's attack explodes against a newly formed barrier. He orders the defense unit to halt the creature's movements with both physical attack block and magic attack block. As the monster staggers from the impact, he directs the support unit to counterattack with offensive magic and ranged skills. An archer confirms the order. With the beast momentarily stunned, Seiya calls out to his flanking team, ordering Rin and Ryuga to attack from the side. Ryuga acknowledges, ready to strike. In the heat of battle, Rin lunged forward, unleashing a wind-fong flash as Ryuga simultaneously conjured a grand explosion. The combined assault slammed into a monstrous, furry beast, staggering it. Seeing his chance, Seiya Amaji stood apart from the fray, his sword glowing as he called upon the spirit of light to grant power to his blade. He surged forward, bringing the empowered weapon down in a brilliant arc. With a cry of divine saints slash, his blade tore through the creature, which collapsed in a battered heap. The beast, though mortally wounded, fixed its gaze on Seiya from a distance. The armored female student flinched at the intensity of its stare, but Seiya simply wiped sweat from his brow, his calm confidence silencing the creature's final defiance. With its spirit broken, he delivered the final strike, plunging his sword into the manticore's head. As the beast fell silent for good, the assembled students erupted into a unified roar of victory. The mood quickly shifted to one of celebration. Later, at a grand feast, one of the students raised his mug, calling for everyone to celebrate the manticore's defeat. In response, the hall echoed with their joyous shouts of cheers. Yet away from the boisterous crowd, Seiya Amaji stood alone by a window, sipping from his own mug. From across the room, someone wondered aloud why the star of the party was keeping to himself. That someone was Princess Priscilla, who approached him with a gentle smile. She asked if it was all right for the hero-sama not to be mingling with everyone. When he addressed her formally, she kindly requested he just call her Priscilla before noticing his troubled expression. He confessed that he felt unable to face the others properly. She understood immediately what he was thinking about. He was lost in thought, believing there must have been a better way to handle the battle. He agonized over the idea that if he had done things differently, his fallen comrades, Sugiyama and Hinamori, might have been saved. As he wrestled with his guilt, Rin's voice cut through his thoughts. She told him that just because he's the hero, it doesn't mean he has to carry everything on his shoulders. She then relayed a message from Sugiyama and the others. They had wanted him to enjoy the party for them, too. Her words, direct and caring, seemed to reach him. Rin smiled, urging him to just enjoy today, since they won. Priscilla added her agreement. Looking at his two friends, Seiya finally conceded that they were right and promised he would do just that. He was quickly approached by Princess Priscilla and Rin, who eagerly invited him to tour the venue and sample the rare sweets available. As they pulled him along, another student with glasses and a peculiar mustache tried to interject, but was seemingly left behind in their excitement. His status as a hero made him an instant celebrity at the celebration. He found himself surrounded by a crowd of admiring young women, much to the chagrin of his male classmates watching from a distance. They grumbled amongst themselves, lamenting how nice it must be to have a beauty on each arm and wishing they could be as popular. Their envy quickly turned into a fiery resolve. The spiky-haired student, clenching his fist, rallied his friends. He declared that it was decided. They would eat to their heart's content, focus on leveling up, and achieve more victories. This, he proclaimed, was the surest way to finally get the girl's attention. His companions roared in agreement. Far away from the feasting and fantasy, in a completely different setting, a pair of hands methodically peeled the plastic wrapper from a triangular rice ball. Perched atop a skyscraper, Iori Shu gazes out at the city lights. He checks his watch, noting the late hour, and thinking he should head back soon. It has been 2 years since the teleportation accident. Tomorrow is the entrance ceremony, a new beginning. He briefly considers that with his wind magic, even a 10-story building would pose no challenge. The next morning, he stands dressed in his new high school uniform, tightening his tie. He reflects on becoming a high school student, still feeling enthused to the idea. From the doorway, Haruna Fujisawa peeks in, asking if her big brother is ready. He finds her use of the title strange and tells her to go on ahead, though he agrees he's ready. As he follows her, he remarks that the sailor uniform really suits her, causing her to blush. He then promptly trips and falls to his knees, earning a sharp command from Haruna to hurry up. He mutters to himself that puberty is hitting hard. Getting up, she hands him a card, its surface surprisingly cold to the touch. Outside, he thanks her for the card. They part ways for their respective classes, and he tells her not to wander into the first year's classroom by mistake, to which she retorts for him to shut up. He walks on, thinking that his high school life has been calm so far, and muses that Haruna is actually quite nice, though she would flip out if he ever said so. His peaceful walk is abruptly interrupted. A group of figures blocks his path, their feet thumping to a stop before him. His expression hardens as he looks up at the unwelcome crowd. They are a gang of 5 delinquents, all armed with baseball bats. Their apparent leader, a man in sunglasses, steps forward and asks if he's the punk who took out Yasu's big brother. He sighs, recognizing the familiar pattern. This sort of trouble always seems to find him, a consequence of his careless actions during the Fujisawa incident. As he thinks this, one of the thugs swings a bat at his head. The leader intercepts the attack, grabbing Iori by the collar instead. He snarls that they know it was him and that he will pay for it with interest, warning him not to play dumb. Unfazed, Iori turns away, calmly stating that they have a wrong guy. In an instant, the confrontation is over. With a resounding slam, Iori has the leader pinned face down on the pavement, his foot pressed firmly onto the back of the man's head. Standing over his defeated opponent, Iori calmly casts his spells, murmuring healing magic and concealment magic. He then addresses the down man, telling him not to make him deal with such an annoying matter on the day of the entrance ceremony. Having dealt with the delinquents and wiped their memories of the encounter, he turns his attention to the school building. With the matter settled, he decides it's time to head inside for the entrance ceremony. He slides open the door to his new classroom, 1C, and steps inside, finding Haruna Fujisawa already waiting by the entrance. His gaze shifts to the seating chart on the wall, searching for his name. He spots Uri, listed in the last row, and feels a sense of relief, thinking it's fortunate he's been placed at the very back of the room. As he settles into his seat, the classroom buzzes with chatter. He observes that the homeroom teacher has yet to arrive, giving him a moment to relax. Nearby, Haruna asks him about the sudden commotion. Haruna stands silently by the classroom door, her expression unreadable as she holds her school bag, observing the room. In a new classroom, a young woman with stunning, light-colored hair makes her entrance, instantly capturing the attention of all her classmates. Whispers spread through the room, likening her to a doll or an angel. Iori Shu, sitting by the window, observes her, noting how much she stands out. She takes the empty seat beside him, and they both offer a slight bow. He flinches as the student next to him leans over, whispering about the new girl's beauty. Simultaneously, Iori feels a wave of intense, menacing glares from the other boys in the class, their jealousy palpable. The boy cheerfully introduces himself as Rentaru Asama. Iori hesitantly replies with his own name. Noting that the new girl even smiled at Iori, Rentaru immediately asks to swap seats, confusing Iori. Their exchange is interrupted by the arrival of their teacher, who greets the class. She instructs everyone to take their seats for self-introductions. As Rentaru gestures for him to pay attention, Iori dismisses him with a click of his tongue. The teacher then introduces herself to the class as Kashimizu Himari, their homeroom teacher for the year. When the teacher calls on Iori-kun, he stands, resolving to keep his introduction simple and safe to avoid any further unwanted attention. He states his name, Iori Shu, and confirms he is ready. He finishes his brief introduction, mentioning gaming and cooking as his hobbies, and receives polite applause. The self-introductions proceed without incident until, finally, it is the turn of the one student everyone has been waiting for. The teacher calls for Kudu-san. The girl with the light-colored hair rises from her desk, her expression obscured by the shadows cast by her bangs. She stands before the class, hands resting on her desk, and introduces herself simply. I am Kudo Miyagi. Nice to meet you. Her words cause a stir of excitement among the other students. Iori's heart thumps in his chest. He feels as though she just gave him a pointed look. He wonders if he's just imagining the strong sense of rejection coming from her. He remains silent as Rentaru giggles beside him. Iori comes to a quiet conclusion. Whether her look was real or not, he and Kudu come from completely different worlds. He sat at his desk, chin resting in his hand, his gaze distant. Beside him, Kudu Miyari stood with a cool, unreadable expression. He resigned himself to the thought that there was likely no chance they would ever get along. The nature of their fateful encounter remained uncertain, whether it would ultimately prove to be a blessing or a curse. Over a home-cooked meal, Kudu Miyari asks Iori, Shu, how his day at school was. He hesitates, looking down at his plate. His response is a warning, telling her not to get caught up in any more accidents. Flustered, she asks if he's worried and tells him to shut up. He dismisses the concern, claiming his day was nothing special, just the usual. He then promises that such dangerous things won't happen again. She turns her head away slightly, quietly insisting that she is fine. Later that night, Iori, now dressed in a dark tracksuit, leaps across the city's rooftops. He activates what he refers to as concealment magic. It has been a week since the entrance ceremony. As is his habit, he sneaks out of the house after dinner to begin his experiments, intending to test the limits of his current stamina. From his vantage point, he decides heading towards the mountains would be better than going near the station. After landing on a dirt path, he pauses, realizing he has traveled quite far, but still has plenty of energy. His trek is suddenly interrupted. Peeking through the dense foliage, he wonders what could be happening out here as he witnesses a small, horned creature being violently sliced in half. His eyes widen in disbelief. He sees more of the horned monsters, then notices a figure standing calmly amidst the carnage. As the creatures sizzle and fall, he recognizes the woman in traditional robes. It is Kudu Miyari. Kudu Miyari suddenly unleashes a torrent of flame from her hand, engulfing one of the horned creatures in a fiery vortex. The monster lets out a piercing screech as it's incinerated. Watching from a safe distance, Iori Shu is stunned by the display of power, wondering if that single blast was enough to finish it. Kudu lands softly, breathing heavily from the exertion. Her brief respite is shattered as the ground begins to rumble. From the surrounding darkness, more of the small, horned demons emerge, brandishing crude weapons as a massive, clawed foot slams down onto the earth beside her. She grits her teeth in frustration, realizing the fight is far from over. From his vantage point, Iori Shu observes the horde swarming around her and understands the grim reality. Facing this many opponents will be a difficult struggle, even for someone with her abilities. The sheer number of them is overwhelming. The small demons chatter menacingly, but Kudu's focus is elsewhere. She doesn't fully grasp the situation, but one thing is clear in her mind. If she leaves Iori behind now, she will regret it for the rest of her life. With a look of pained determination, she makes her choice. Seeing her expression, Iori can only agree, his face etched with worry. Her mind flashes back to the mission briefing. She was told that a few demons had broken free from their seal and escaped into the mountains. Her orders were simple: go and exterminate them. She recalls standing alone at the edge of the woods, ready to carry out her duty. She remembers her own thoughts at the time. She had exterminated demons of this level many times before, so she saw no reason to question the assignment or bring anything more than her standard equipment. That decision, she now understands, was a grave error, and this is the result. Iori listens intently, his expression softening as he accepts her explanation. Her attention is suddenly drawn to a new, powerful presence. Seated calmly amidst the chaos is a massive, red-skinned demon, watching the unfolding battle with an air of amusement. He analyzes the potent demonic energy radiating from the scene and comes to a chilling conclusion. This large demon is the true cause of the broken seal, a being on the level of the four heavenly kings. She stares into the darkness, a troubling question forming in her mind. Did the main family know about this powerful entity? And if so, did they still send her to face it alone? She realizes with a sense of futility that there is likely no way to find out the truth anymore. Turning her focus back to the immediate threat, she faces the horde of smaller demons. With resolve, she taps a glowing symbol etched into her forearm, declaring that she cannot allow these things to run loose and will do what must be done. With tears of desperation streaking her face, the young Miko steels her resolve. She glares forward, vowing that this is where she will take them all down with her. To enact this final gambit, she steps firmly onto the ground, activating a complex spell formation that glows beneath her feet. Just as the spell begins to take hold, a man in a dark, hooded tracksuit suddenly appears before her. The Miko shouts for him to wait, pleading with the stranger to get out of there immediately, but he is already moving. He ignores her warning and, with a burst of speed, drives his foot into the magical energy coalescing on the ground. The spell shatters with a deafening crack, and the small, horned creatures it was summoning dissolve into harmless motes of light, leaving the Miko stunned. She stares in disbelief, questioning the inhuman movement she just witnessed. More confusingly, she realizes she cannot sense any demonic energy coming from him at all. Her mind races, wondering if he is even human. The thought is cut short by a furious roar from the giant Oni, who bellows at the hooded man, demanding to know how he dared to kill his precious subordinates. The Oni's rage quickly turns to annoyance, complaining that he can't even see the expression on the man's face. The hooded man remains silent, observing that the giant demon should be able to see him clearly from its position and wondering what this strange phenomenon means. He dismisses the oddity with a scoff, deciding it doesn't matter what kind of thing the stranger is. He concludes that he can find out after he kills him. With a predatory grin, the Oni raises his massive katana high, preparing to cleave the hooded man in two. A sharp, violent impact rings out in the darkness. As the Oni leader stands amidst a cloud of dust, a massive blade suddenly impales him from behind. He looks down at the hilt protruding from his chest, not with pain, but with a mixture of confusion and amusement. The blade shatters, and from the smoke emerges the hooded man. He stands before the impaled Oni, his fist clenched and steaming slightly, his eyes glowing with cold intensity. His display of power leaves the Miko figure in utter disbelief. She questions how he could have possibly deflected that giant blade with only his fist. The Oni leader is equally stunned. She realizes with dawning horror that no ordinary human could perform such a feat. The Oni leader, recovering his composure, attempts to bargain for his life. He offers treasure, suggesting that the prayer beads around his neck alone would fetch at least 10 gold coins. If spared, he promises to lead the hooded man to the treasure vault where he gathered all his riches. The hooded man remains silent and still. His silence is broken by the Miko figure, who shouts a warning not to listen to anything the demon says. She insists that demons are wicked beings who deceive humans and feast on their lives. The Oni leader snarls at her to mind her own business. Ignoring their exchange, the hooded man takes a single, deliberate step forward. He lunges, his fist connecting squarely with the Oni leader's face. The impact is immense, sending the massive demon flying backward through the air like a ragdoll. The demon's flight ends abruptly as his body erupts in a violent explosion of blood and gore, showering the clearing. The Miko figure is splattered with the remains, her eyes wide with shock as she witnesses the utter annihilation. She collapses to her knees, trembling. The sheer, unbelievable strength of the hooded man is terrifying. She admits to herself that her first instinct is to run away, but she knows there's something she must confirm first, whether this powerful being is an enemy of humanity or not. As this resolve forms, a strange, electronic beeping sound fills the air. She looks up and calls out to the hooded man, trying to get his attention. He pays her no mind. Instead, he taps a device on his wrist, and a small, glowing object materializes in his hand. Before she can react, he vanishes in a flash of light, leaving her alone and speechless in the dark forest. He vanished in a motes of light before she could even properly call out. "Wait!" she cried, reaching for the empty space where her savior had stood. Now, she stands alone in the silent, star-strewn clearing, the only remnants of the battle being the disturbed earth and the Oni's massive katana plunged into the ground. Utterly bewildered, she can only wonder to herself, what was that? On a peaceful spring morning, Iori Shu lets out a massive yawn in his classroom, feeling utterly exhausted. His friend, Rintaru Isama, notices and asks about the big yawn. Iori explains he was busy, prompting Rintaru to tease him about watching naughty videos. Iori dismisses the joke, clarifying that his watch broke and he was up all night trying to fix it. Rintaru examines the watch, remarking that it doesn't look broken at all. He confirmed that it only looked fine on the outside. The real problem, he explained, was that it kept setting off alarms he never set. A memory of the incessant beeping from the previous night flashes through his mind, reminding him of why he got so little sleep. His mind flashed back to the cause. The watch had been damaged when he smashed a monster the day before, the shock of the impact being far too great for the device. Returning to the present, Rintaru asks if it still works as a watch. Iori confirms it does, but resigns himself to buying a new one. Seizing the opportunity, Rintaru playfully asks if he can have the old one. He agrees, but cheekily offers to sell it for 3,000 yen, much to Rintaru's surprise. As they banter, their classmate Kudu walks past their desks. He haggles the price down slightly, but his thoughts drift. The peacefulness of the school day makes the events of yesterday feel like a distant dream. His reverie is broken when he notices Kudu Miyari's ankle, crying out her name as he spots the bandages. He immediately asks about the injury. With a pleasant smile, Kudu reassures her concerned friends that she just twisted her ankle and it's nothing serious. But Iori knows better. A vivid memory of her surrounded by monsters confirms that everything that happened yesterday was terrifyingly real. As she speaks to her friends, he wonders what had truly happened. With a subtle gesture, he points his fingers toward her group and silently activates a skill, appraisal. The skill activates, revealing what an appraisal shows when used on a human. A status window, visible only to him, appears over Kudu Miyari. It confirms her identity and age, but more importantly, details her status. Minor cuts and bruises across her body, fatigue, and the fact that she was injured in a battle with a demon carried out under her family's orders. He considered the information from his appraisal skill, his mind conjuring possibilities. Could her injuries be the result of abuse? He pictured a grim scenario involving a man with a criminal record, wondering if that was the true source of her current condition. He realized, however, that he had no real idea what kind of background the Kudu family came from. The appraisal had revealed the battle, but not the context. He thought about asking her directly, but the idea felt fraught with complications. His thoughts shifted to her public image. Iori was known as the daughter of a distinguished family. She possessed a charming personality, excelled in both academics and sports, and had even delivered the entrance ceremony speech, earning the admiration of her peers. As a result, she had risen to the top of the school's class rankings in just 1 week. Now, Iori was known by all as the angel of the school, a seemingly perfect and untouchable figure. He reflected on the vast social distance between them. She was popular, and he was an outsider. Approaching her would only draw unwanted attention. Besides, since he had used concealment magic during the battle, she wouldn't recognize him anyway. He resolved that it was probably best to forget the whole incident. His train of thought was shattered when Rintaru-sama called out his name, asking why he had suddenly frozen up. Startled, Iori tried to brush it off, muttering that he was trying to forget something just as Iori walked past them in the hallway. He remained distracted as Asama tried to continue their conversation. Iori apologized, blaming a sudden wave of drowsiness. Internally, however, he admitted the truth. He was simply worried about Kudu-san and her injuries. Asama revealed he had been talking about Kudu, relaying that she had told others she merely twisted her ankle and it was nothing serious. He advised Iori that for students like them, even speaking to her was a distant dream, so worrying was pointless. Iori could only agree. He watched as Haruna Fujisawa cheerfully greeted Kudu in the hall. He mused that, unlike Fujisawa, who had been a clear victim of crime, Kudu's situation was different. There was nothing he could do. As he came to this conclusion, a soft beep sounded from his wrist. The beeping suddenly grew louder and more insistent, emanating from the watch on his wrist. The sharp, repetitive sound startled Asama, who jumped back and demanded to know what was happening. Iori stared down at the device, his expression turning to one of alarm. He fumbles with the device as it continues to beep loudly, drawing the attention of the entire class. He apologizes for the noise, explaining that his watch is broken and he's trying to shut it off. Nearby, Kudu stares at him, her expression one of stunned silence. Her strange reaction catches Haruna Fujisawa's attention, who asks if something is wrong. Kudu, looking pale, dismisses the concern and apologizes, stating she needs to step away for a moment. As she steps away, Iori finally manages to silence the watch. He examines it, realizing its condition is worse than he initially thought. Rintaru-sama playfully offers to buy the broken timepiece for 3,000 yen, an offer Iori quickly declines. He sighs, placing his bag by his desk. He figures the shop will likely just replace the watch rather than attempt a repair. Just as he settles in, she appears before his desk, her gaze fixed intently upon him. Leaning closer, she apologizes for bothering him and asks if he could spare some time after school. Taken aback, Iori asks what it is she wants. Her stare intensifies, exuding a palpable pressure that makes him flinch. She agrees that his question is fine, but her tone suggests there is more to it. Then, out of sight of the other students, she discreetly passes him a folded note. With a soft exhale and a knowing smile, she acknowledges his unspoken understanding. Straightening up, she informs him that she will be waiting for him after school at the location specified on the note. He watches her go, a sense of overwhelming dread washing over him. He can already tell this is going to turn into a massive hassle. He finally managed to shake off the other students, whose whispers about him being called out by Kudu-san followed him through the halls. With a sigh of relief, he finds himself standing before the literature club, a club he hadn't even known existed. He knocks on the door, and a voice from within invites him in. Sliding the door open, he announces his presence. Kudu is already there, kneeling formally in the center of the tatami-matted room. He hesitates at the threshold, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. Unsure of the proper etiquette for the situation, he wonders what he is supposed to do and if he should remove his shoes to join her on the floor. As he stands there, her hands shift nervously in her lap. She, too, seems to be questioning the purpose of this meeting. Then, bowing her head deeply in a gesture of profound respect, she thanks him for saving her life the night before, stating that she is truly grateful. Her words leave him stunned and confused. He internally questions how she could have possibly known he was the one who helped her. She answers his unspoken question directly, stating that she knows because of his watch. She explains further, recalling the events of the previous night. The watch he wore to school was identical to the one worn by her rescuer, and the alarm that sounded in class was the very same one she heard then. The pieces click into place for him. He understands now. The watch's alarm was set to signal the moment his concealment magic wore off. She must have caught a glimpse of it in the instant he used his spatial transfer to leave. Realizing there is no longer any point in denial, he resolves that he has some questions for her too. She looks up at him and asks for confirmation directly. "You were the one from last night, weren't you, Iori-san?" He admits it, confirming that he was the one there yesterday. With the truth now between them, he asks if her only reason for summoning him was to express her gratitude. The question seems to catch her off guard. She remains seated on the floor as Iori stood over her, his mind racing. He reasoned that if she had only wanted to thank him, she would not have summoned him so directly. There had to be another, more important reason she called him here. She looked up, her expression turning serious as she met his unspoken accusation. She conceded that he was right, admitting that it would be disrespectful of her to try and evade his question now. Then, in a move that left him utterly bewildered, she pressed her forehead to the floor in a deep, formal bow. Her voice was strained as she made her plea. She needed him to lend her his strength in order to exterminate the demons lurking in their town. In a bustling city district at night, a disgruntled man in a suit complains loudly about his boss. As he vents his frustrations, a woman with long dark hair, holding a drink, approaches him with a knowing smile. She asks if she might join him, and he, startled, readily agrees. The scene shifts to a school rooftop where Kudu Iori is collapsed on the ground. Iori Shu stands over her, wondering about the real reason for her sudden actions. His thoughts darken as he considers the presence of demons in this town. He recalls the ancient history of this land. For ages, various demons have existed, feeding on the fear generated by harming people to expand their own territories. To combat this threat, those who gained power to oppose them became known as exorcists. It is said that descendants of the Kudu bloodline, like Kudu Iori, are tasked with hunting these demons night after night. Back in the present, Kudu bows her head in distress. She explains that a powerful demon has escaped its seal and is now hiding somewhere in town. She admits that in her current state, she lacks the power to defeat it. She looks up at Iori, her voice pleading. For the sake of saving the town, she asks if he would be willing to help her. He looks down, a bead of sweat on his cheek, as he internally questions if this world is truly so steeped in fantasy. He hesitates, remaining silent. Seeing this, Kudu glares at him intensely, causing him to flinch. She quickly adds that, of course, she will ensure he is properly rewarded for his efforts. His gaze sharpens as he considers her words, concluding that she is likely not lying. He activates his appraisal ability, which confirms her identity as Kudu Iori, a 16-year-old human. The analysis details her minor injuries, fatigue, and intense anxiety about her mission. Having verified her condition, he agrees to help as much as he can. Kudu's face lights up with relief, and she thanks him profusely. He internally reflects that she is on the same fantasy side as him and already knows about his abilities. He stands before her resolved. For now, he will cooperate with her, partly to keep an eye on things and observe the situation as it unfolds. He needed to be sure of one thing. Standing before Kudu Iori, he asked her directly if she was human. He calmly confirmed that he was, in fact, human. The confirmation did little to quell her shock. She couldn't comprehend how a mere human could possess such power, calling him a monster. He admitted that he wasn't entirely sure how to explain it himself. She invited him to sit and began to explain the origin of his mysterious powers, linking them to an incident from 2 years prior. She asked if he remembered the gas explosion at a middle school, an event he recalled from the news as having claimed the lives of 25 students. He confirmed his memory of the event, but somberly added that the official story was not the truth. She elaborated on the true events of that day. A mysterious being from another world had appeared in that classroom, granting a skill to every student present before transporting them all away, all except for him. He was the only one who survived the incident, a fact he could only attribute to sheer luck. Kudu listened intently, admitting the story sounded unbelievable. Yet after witnessing his incredible power, she couldn't dismiss it as a lie. Her expression hardened with resolve. She declared that whether she found it hard to believe or not was irrelevant. Right now, they needed his power. With that, she accepted his story, stating that this understanding made things much easier. Having established a tentative trust, she shifted the topic to their target. She presented him with a drawing of the demon currently hiding in the city, a mythical, ox-headed monster known as an Ashioni. Iori recognized the name, as she explained that its notoriety was due to its immense power and dangerous nature, making it a particularly troublesome foe. He correctly deduced that the Ashioni must be disguising itself as a human to hide within the city. She confirmed his suspicion, adding that for this reason, they needed to keep its existence as discreet as possible while they hunted it. He summarized their objective: to find and eliminate the Ashioni before it could cause chaos and harm people. Kudu affirmed this, apologizing for the many restrictions placed upon him. He brushed off her apology, stating it was no problem. He had anticipated complications and was prepared to handle them, provided her information was accurate. She then revealed her own preparations. She had already released shikigami, paper charms, across the entire city to detect any trace of demonic energy. She explained with confidence that no matter how well a demon disguises itself as a human, it can never completely conceal its demonic aura. However, she cautioned him that her shikigami could only pinpoint a general location, not a specific one. Because of this, she estimated it would take at least a week to track down the Ashioni. As he listened, he realized that for her to propose hunting it down with such confidence, she must already have some kind of plan in mind. He agrees that it's possible to let Kudu Iori know if he detects the demon's energy, but hesitates. She presses him, asking what he intends to do. Confused, he asks for clarification, finding the answer obvious. She insists he tell her immediately if he senses anything. With a sudden snap of his fingers, his resolve solidifies. He declares his intention to take the monster down quickly, questioning if that wasn't the entire point of their endeavor. Elsewhere, a woman with long dark hair warmly invites a man to her room. Visibly flustered and blushing, the man can't believe his luck, stammering that he's never met someone he gets along with so well. He eagerly accepts her offer. Later, he awakens with a gasp inside a car, realizing with confusion that they have driven to a remote, dilapidated building in the middle of nowhere. A sudden violent impact throws him from the vehicle. Sprawled on the ground, he desperately asks the woman what is happening. Her face begins to crack and distort as she offers a simple, chilling apology. Her body contorts unnaturally, bones cracking and flesh ripping as she transforms. She explains that since she couldn't get in touch with her underlings, she had no choice but to resort to such rough methods. The man can only watch from the ground, paralyzed by terror. The transformation completes, revealing a monstrous, spider-like creature with massive horns and a gaping maw. It looms over its helpless prey. Tears stream down his face as he screams in pure horror, calling the being before him a monster. The creature responds with mock indignation, chiding him for being so cruel after he had just been praising her beauty moments before. It leans closer to its terrified prey, cooing for the man not to be so cold. The man scrambles backward on the ground, screaming for the creature to stay away and not come any closer. Its voice drips with sadistic glee as it reminds him of its promise that they would spend the night together, its monstrous form looming over him. With its taunt delivered, the demon lunges forward with a horrifying shriek, its claws extended towards the helpless man. It effortlessly lifts the struggling man, who continues to scream for it to stop. From a distance, another figure observes the scene. He clenches his fist, annoyed that someone is in his way, and decides to keep his distance and observe for now. The Ashioni pauses, sensing something is wrong. In a flash, the victim is yanked from its grasp, flying through the air. The Ashioni stares in stunned confusion. The source of the intervention becomes clear. The hooded man has cast a spell, identifying his ability as spatial teleportation magic. The magic gently deposits the now unconscious man onto the ground, far from the demon's reach. With the civilian secured, the hooded man instantly reappears, now standing directly on the back of the Ashioni as it hovers high above the forest canopy. The demon roars in confusion and rage. He looks down with a faint, confident smile, relieved that his maneuver was successful. He addresses the creature by its name, Ashioni, declaring that he has it now. It is time to slay some demons. With a confident smirk, the hooded young man confronts a monstrous, multi-limbed demon, declaring that he's got the Ashioni. The events, however, begin a few minutes earlier with an urgent phone call from Iori Kudu. Her voice crackles through the speaker, announcing to Iori-san that the creature is out. Responding to her alert, he looks at his phone as Kudu provides the location, tapping a map to indicate a back alley in a shopping district. She reports that they've detected an Ashioni behind a hotel there. He acknowledges the information, clenching his fist as he confirms he's heading there right away. He begins to move, but Kudu interjects with an update from her command post. She warns him that the target is moving faster now and seems to be using taxi. At this rate, she doesn't think he'll be able to catch up on foot. He listens, processing the new complication. To overcome the distance, he invokes his power. A vortex of energy swirls around him as he unleashes wind magic, propelling himself forward at incredible speed. While racing through the city, he speaks into his phone, telling Kudu that once the signal stops, he'll head directly to the location and meet her there. His speed surprises her. She asks if he's actually caught up already. He confirms he has eyes on the target, a white sedan, and asks her to perform a check. Kudu obliges, activating her appraisal ability. Her analysis reveals 3 individuals: the 1,900-year-old Kashima Ashioni, starving for spiritual energy, a subservient 500-year-old Lesseroni disguised as the driver, and a 41-year-old human, Iguchi Tamatsu, who is drunk and under an illusion spell. After receiving the appraisal, he confirms his suspicions to Kudu. There is no doubt that the Ashioni is in the taxi, with a Lesseroni at the wheel. The final piece of information horrifies Kudu. She realizes with a gasp that there's a human man with them, and they're likely planning to make him their first victim. She swallows hard and asks what he intends to do. He calmly lays out his plan. He will simply pull the man away from the Ashioni and then teleport them both to safety. He instructs her to stand by at the site of their battle with the Oni from the previous day. Kudu begins to protest, but he ends the call, stating they can keep in touch via chat. Now, standing on a rooftop overlooking the street, he watches the taxi. He considers that teleporting onto a rampaging car would be a headache. He decides to wait and see for a moment. Just as the Ashioni's true, monstrous form begins to emerge from the vehicle, looming over its helpless prey. At a different location, Iori Shu checks his phone. He has arrived at the specified place, but has yet to hear from Kudu. Realizing the situation is bad, he decides he must act quickly. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, he crouches with a confident smirk, announcing that he'll get things started. With a sound like shattering glass, the space before him fractures and he vanishes. Meanwhile, Kudamiari looks up at the night sky. She hadn't known what Iori was planning, but she never imagined he would appear so high up. Having already deployed her paper talismans to suppress the yokai's power, she steels herself, understanding that this will be the site of their final battle. She prepares to join him. High above, the hooded man stands casually on the head of a colossal, horned demon. The beast roars in fury and confusion, demanding to know what he did. The young man calmly explains that he is skydiving from 200 meters up. He then leaps from the demon's head, telling it to enjoy the final view of its life. As he plummets, the demon screams in panic for him to wait. Using wind magic to break his fall, he lands gently on the ground. Kudu rushes toward him, calling his name in relief. He quickly pulls her into his arms, checking if she is all right before turning his attention to the imminent threat. In that instant, the colossal demon slams into the earth with a deafening boom, sending a massive shockwave of dirt and debris outward. The hooded man shields Kudu from the blast. The dust settles to reveal an enormous crater gouged into the landscape. At the bottom lies the still form of the horned demon, with the hooded man sitting calmly at the crater's edge. Despite the devastating impact, the demon's body twitches. Kudu, now standing beside her companion, asks if he thinks it's dead. He answers with a simple, certain no. His assessment is proven correct as the creature's muscles twitch again. It is not finished yet. He and Kudu Iori watch as the colossal demon, far from defeated, slowly pushes itself back to its feet. Its mangled body steams as it rises, prompting a gasp of disbelief from Kudu. As the creature's form knits itself back together, Kudu exclaims in shock that its crushed body is regenerating. He can only watch with a frustrated click of his tongue. The demon's single, bloodshot eye focuses on him, filled with pure hatred. It seethes, vowing that it will not forgive the boy and that it will kill him. Unfazed by the threat, he calmly assesses the situation. He concludes that, just as he thought, a big boss like this requires a decisive final blow. He raises his hands, gathering energy. A powerful surge of cold emanates from him as he unleashes his ice magic, causing a massive, jagged formation of ice to erupt from the ground with a sharp crack. The demon roars and charges directly toward them. Kudu screams a warning that the Ashioni is coming, but he remains still, eyes fixed on the approaching threat. He holds his ground, murmuring, "Not yet," waiting for the precise moment to strike. As the beast closes the distance, he finally shouts. Now, at his command, the colossal ice shard lances forward, striking the charging demon with tremendous force. The impact is devastating, a concussive boom echoing as ice and flesh explode outwards. The creature's body shatters into pieces, scattering across the ground. As the dust settles, he stands panting, believing the fight is finally over. But Kudu, looking at him with concern, points out that something is wrong with his face. He raises a hand to his face, and a single drop of blood drips from his nose, evidence of the strain the powerful magic has taken on his body. A moment later, a translucent display materializes before his eyes. He stares at it, bewildered, as it shows his status. His gaze falls upon his MP, which reads a stark 0 out of 850. The realization of what has happened leaves him speechless. He attempts a weak laugh, trying to downplay his condition. He muses that he must have gotten too hyped up, using overpowered spells that completely drained his magic. Kudu Iori watches him, her eyes wide with terror. He tries to reassure her, saying he'll be fine after a quick nap, but his body gives out, and he pitches forward. His collapse prompts a panic cry from Kudu Iori. He slumps against her, his body heavy and unresponsive. Holding him up, she stares ahead in shock, tears welling in her eyes as she frantically wonders what to do. A faint, electronic beep echoes in the silence. As his consciousness fades, a voice resonates within his mind. It confirms the successful subjugation of a unique monster, granting him an extra bonus. He has acquired a new title, one who defeated the named. The voice then announces that it is initiating the process for him to acquire an extra skill, a call for further evolution echoing in the depths of his mind. His eyes open. The battle was over, and he awakens in an unfamiliar room, sitting up in a bed with a cold pack on his forehead. He wonders aloud where he is, just as a female voice expresses relief that he's finally awake. He remembers the fight with the Ashioni and recognizes the girl standing before him as Kudu. Overcome with guilt, he apologizes profusely, lamenting that he put her in danger and caused this to happen. She quickly refutes his apology, insisting that her passing out was her own mistake and that he shouldn't worry about it. He starts to protest, but she is firm. He concedes, reasoning that since the monster was defeated and neither of them were injured, everything should be fine. He then asks where they are. Kudu hesitates for a moment before revealing they are at her house. His expression goes completely blank at this unexpected revelation. He rubs his eyes, asking if he misheard her. As she turns, Kudu simply confirms what she said. Standing on a high-rise balcony, she asks him about dinner, offering to prepare something for him. He remains silent, looking out at the city. Meanwhile, at a sprawling traditional Japanese estate, news arrives with shocking force. The Ashioni has been defeated. Inside, an elderly man is stunned. A subordinate reports that the Ashioni's spiritual energy has completely vanished. The elder demands confirmation, his voice sharp with disbelief. The report is confirmed, and the news of the Ashioni subjugation sends shockwaves throughout the Kudu family's main residence, setting the assembled exorcists to the clan abuzz. The elder contemplated the report. The prestigious Kudu clan, a family of exorcists, had assigned the Ashioni subjugation to Kudu Iori, one of the candidates for the next head. By all logic, it should have been an impossible accomplishment. This was because the Ashioni is the highest-ranking demon to have ravaged Japan since ancient times. Even if the greatest exorcists of the era were to gather, merely sealing it would be the absolute limit of their collective ability. Therefore, when the clan learned that the demon had broken free from its seal, along with its followers, the exorcists were thrown into a state of great distress. Their panic was justified. The overall strength of exorcists had fallen drastically compared to when the Ashioni was first sealed, a result of declining numbers and the extinction of influential families. They had no capacity to seal it again, let alone defeat it, which led to the desperate plan they devised. The strategy was to deliberately allow someone with immense spiritual power to be eaten by the Ashioni. They hoped this would slow the demon's movements, creating a brief opening in which to attempt to seal. The person chosen for this role was a sacrificial lamb. That sacrifice was to be Kudu. As a candidate for the next head of the family, she lacked political influence and held a weak position, making her expendable. She was given false information that a lesser Oni had escaped and was forced to take responsibility for the region. Under the guise of a subjugation order, she was sent to face the Ashioni. Also, she could be used as a sacrifice. That was indeed the clan's plan. The elder presses the clansman before him, demanding to know how. Then, Iori managed to defeat the Ashioni. The man hesitates, stammering about the details. He explains that the report is brief. According to Iori-sama, the one who actually carried out the subjugation was apparently a collaborator. As the response team processes photos from the incident site, the elder's expression hardens at the mention of an unknown partner. The clansman presents a device displaying the photos. As the elder and a younger clan member look at the screen, their faces contort in disbelief and shock. He stared at the image on the screen, confirming the identity of the massive, clawed creature. It was indeed the Ashioni, slain. Around him, the room filled with the disbelieving chatter of the other clan members. They questioned how it was possible to have split the Ashioni, with its famously tough hide, in two. One man's voice rose above the others in sheer disbelief. This man, Kudu Genji, a leading candidate for the family headship, silenced the room. He declared that the method of the demon's defeat was not the issue. The priority, he insisted, was to decide how to punish Kudu for violating their absolute principle of secrecy. He scoffed at the mention of a collaborator, calling the idea ridiculous. The fact that this person's identity wasn't documented, he argued, was proof that Iori was hiding something. Turning to the seated elder, he addressed him as grandfather and demanded that they pass judgment on Kudu without delay. The elder, however, counseled a different path. While acknowledging that rules must be upheld, he stated that flexibility is sometimes necessary. He proposed that instead of punishment, they should focus on building a friendly relationship with Iori's powerful collaborator. Genji listened, his expression hardening as he asked what his grandfather meant. His fist clenched tightly as the implication sank in. With barely contained rage, he asked if this meant they would simply overlook Iori's actions. The elder delivered his verdict. Iori's punishment would be to have her so-called collaborator placed under surveillance. He then instructed the younger clansman to inform Iori of the decision, an order which was accepted immediately. The decision sent Genji into a silent fury. Grinding his teeth, he stormed away, cursing the sly old man and Iori under his breath. Alone, he seethed, his thoughts consumed by Kudu. He wondered how many more times she intended to provoke him before she was satisfied. Still seething from his earlier humiliation, he confronts Kudu directly. He tells her that if she had only become his property back then, he would have cherished her. He then makes his demand clear. She is to abandon her title as a candidate for the next head and belong to him. Iori turns her back on him, her expression cold and resolute. She declares that she will decide her own life and has no intention of being ordered around by him. With finality, she tells him to leave. His face twists in pure rage at her defiance. He smashes his fist against a nearby surface, roaring in frustration. He glares after her retreating form, his eyes burning with malice. He silently vows that she will not escape and that he will make her suffer for this humiliation. The scene then shifts to a quiet apartment at night, where a simple meal has been prepared. Inside, the hooded man and Kudu eat their meal. The only sound in the room is the clinking of chopsticks. The silence is broken by Iori, who quietly expresses her hope that he enjoys the meal. After taking a sip from his cup, he remarks on how quiet her house feels. He then praises the food, exclaiming that it's amazing, even better than the miso soup he makes himself. A small, please smile touches Iori's lips as she asks if he really means it. Iori asks if it's truly okay for him not to contact his family. He assures her it's fine, explaining he already told them he'd be staying at a friend's place. He then turns the question back on her, expressing more concern about her letting someone like him into her house and asking about her parents. Her expression turns somber as she looks away. She quietly reveals that she has always lived here by herself. He notices her tone shift instantly, becoming the same cold, distant one he heard on the first day of school. Realizing that family is a sensitive topic for her, he decides to drop the subject and not pry any further. He expressed his relief, asking Kudu if this meant the Ashioni and other yokai would no longer appear in the city. She confirmed that, at the very least, they shouldn't. The thought brought him a sense of peace, as he considered that his little sister and father were now safe from that particular danger. With that concern settled, Iori remembered something else. She presented him with a thick stack of cash, explaining that it was a reward for his cooperation in the Ashioni subjugation, a total of 1 million yen. He stared at the money, utterly stunned. He immediately refused, insisting he couldn't accept such a large sum. Iori pressed the issue, telling him not to hesitate if it wasn't enough. With a hint of annoyance, she stated that for defeating an Ashioni, the amount was actually modest, and refusing it would bring shame upon the Kudu name. He realized she would not back down. Relenting, he agreed to take it, much to her satisfaction. At that moment, his phone chimed with a message from his sister, chiding him for being late and reminding him it was his turn for chores. As he read her texts, he mused that with all the bizarre things happening, he could at least use the money to replace his wristwatch. A small smile touched his lips as he looked at his phone. He quickly stood, apologizing to Iori and thanking her for the meal before announcing he was heading home. She watched him go, acknowledging his departure. As he put on his jacket by the door, Iori watched him from the table. She hesitated for a moment before quietly speaking his name, Iori Ku. He paused, asking if she had said something. From her seat, she quickly replied that it was nothing. Outside the apartment building, he turned to say a final goodbye, promising to see her at school. As he walked away, she watched his retreating back, then suddenly called out his name again, this time with more urgency. He stopped, turning back in confusion. Before he could fully turn around, she rushed forward and tugged on the sleeve of his jacket, stopping him in his tracks. Her head was bowed as she began to speak. She looked up, her face alight with a brilliant, heartfelt smile. Truly, she exclaimed, her voice full of genuine emotion, thank you so much. He was completely taken aback by the sudden display, a blush rising on his cheeks as he stammered a response. He walks home, the recent events reminding him of the incident with Fujisawa-san. He's relieved that, once again, things were resolved. As he steps through his front door, his sister is there waiting, greeting him with a quiet welcome back. He immediately asks if she is mad at him. She looks back, her expression neutral, and questions if she really isn't. Seeing her reaction, he apologizes for making her worry. He then gently pats her on the head, acknowledging that she must have been worried because he returned home so late. He offers her a simple, heartfelt thanks. She seems slightly flustered by the gesture. He silently wonders why she isn't angry with him. After a moment, she quietly gets his attention, calling him brother. She looks up at him with a small smile, admitting that while she might be a little upset, it feels like things are finally back to how they used to be. Her words make him reflect on his life before everything changed, back when he was simply Iori Shu, a normal human. His mind flashes back through a whirlwind of recent memories, the fierce battles, the monstrous creatures, the new faces. So much has happened. He recalls his former reality, a quiet existence that passed by day after day. It was a life of simple routine, nothing more and nothing less, not something to hope for. But now, things are different. His thoughts drift away from the past and settle on a particular person, Haruna Fujisawa. He pictures her standing in front of the school, waving at him with a bright, welcoming smile. Her joyful face fills his mind's eye, a wide smile revealing small, sharp fangs as she seems to offer a single word of possibility. Maybe. A faint, almost unconscious smile touches Iori's lips. The thought of her brings a warmth that spreads across his face, a stark contrast to the turmoil he has grown accustomed to. With this newfound feeling settling in his heart, he walks towards the school building where Haruna Fujisawa waits for him. As he approaches, a clear thought crystallizes in his mind. This kind of life isn't so bad after all.